Alright, so we're recording to the cloud. Hello everyone, I'm Brother Doug with my mom Sharon and with our sisters Sadie, River, and Marissa, and our brother Dennis. We are the Wakened by Yahuwah Fellowship Group in Yahuwah Almighty and Yahushua Messiah. Today we are doing a study called, let me just move this bracket here. Okay, differences in the book of Micah. Micah is a prophet. Christianity would have you believe that he's just a minor prophet, even though it's a pretty powerful book that he writes. And I don't believe any of the prophets are minor.
None of them are minor. None of them are minor.
So, but Micah is a book that many do not read, either just through tradition. You know, they just kind of ignore some of the other prophets that are not spoken of as much as Jeremiah and Isaiah.
Right.
So Micah, in like the same light as Habakkuk, is one that you don't hear about, and Haggai you don't really hear much about. So we're going to be looking at the differences in the book of Micah today. I'm going to start us off by our first difference is going to bring us to verse 2 here. The Masoretic text already is substituting Yahuwah with Adonai. So what I'm going to do for you guys here is I'm going to go to my eSword, and I'm going to do a little parallel thing here. So I'm going to click on the parallel here so I can do two translations at once and show you guys the differences here. You all right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So let's go to Micah 1. Okay. Once you get to verse 2 here, you're going to already see, hear these words, ye people, and let the earth give heed, and all that are in it, and Yahuwah Elohim, so that's what the Septuagint will say. The Masoretic text will say, and let me just change to the Sefer so you can actually see it, because the Sefer actually puts Adonai in English. Where is the Sefer? What the heck? Huh, they're not allowing me to show it. Okay, that's a little weird. Usually I'm able to show it. Huh. Oh, it's under T. Okay, I see how they do it. That's so weird. Okay, so you have to go to like T. Huh. I guess they don't give that as an option. All right, I'll just do King James with the Strongs then. It's kind of weird they don't give that as a parallel option, but here we go. Verse 2 here. If you look at the Masoretic here, with the Strongs attached to it, what do you know? H136, Adonai. Lowercase Lord. Okay, so in the Apostolic Bible Polyglot on the left here, uppercase. All caps Lord. So the Septuagint is showing you Yahuwah is supposed to be there rather than Adonai. Okay? So that means the Masoretic text in verse 2 there substituted the Father's name for Adonai, which I'm not surprised about, because it seems like that happens a lot. Okay? Let's see here. So now we're going to go to verse 4. Masoretic text lacks bees. The word bees is not there in the Masoretic text. And so let's go back to the eSword here. Verse 4 in the Septuagint would read as, and shall be shaken the mountains shall be shaken from beneath him, and the valley shall melt away as beeswax. So the Masoretic here would just have wax. Okay, or shall pour down, see the molten under him, and the valley shall be cleft as wax. So the word bees is not there in beeswax. Very weird. So that was just completely omitted. Now we're going to go to the next cross-reference here I have, and I'm still getting used to this new shared screen where everything is on one shared screen and instead of picking what you want to share. So I'm still getting used to that new update with Zoom. Okay, so Micah chapter 1 verse 5 in the Septuagint has in reverence, meaning not fearing the Father. And then Masoretic text says transgression, which is sin. So it's a little bit more specific in the Septuagint. It's referring to a specific type of sin. It's referring to not reverencing him. Okay, so that's the difference there. Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to try to make sure everyone's muted here. Okay, so we're going to go to verse 5 here, which says, on account of impiety, again, impiety in reverence, same thing, of Jacob, all these things, and because of the sin of the house of Yasharal, what the irreverence of Jacob, is it not Samaria? And what the sin of the house of Yehuda, is it not Jerusalem? So again, you just have sin on the right side of the Masoretic text. It would say, for the transgression, sin, or trespass of Jacob is all this. So instead of in reverence or impiety, you have transgression. So it's just a little bit more specific what type of transgression, what type of sin, not fearing the Father, not reverencing. So.
Excuse me. You're not recording, are you, brother?
Yeah, I'm recording.
Can you put pause?
All right, we're back on the recording. I had to shut down the Facebook Live, so just bear with me. I'm going to have to do another live here. So who's ever been watching from Facebook Live, just bear with us. We're going to do another live here. So you're going to have 2 lives from us today, that the first couple of minutes there. And I'm going to start it up again. See here, just hold on a second, guys. Take about 5 minutes to get back on live. Okay. So I'm not even going to worry about giving a title, since there was already a title to the first one. So yeah, just go live anyway. Doesn't matter. I can always add a title later. Okay, so we're almost there, guys. Thank you for bearing with us. Thank you for your patience. Shalom, Sister Alyssa. Shalom.
Shalom, Brother Doug.
Hey. All right, so we're almost on live.
Shalom, Lily.
All right,
Hi.
here we go. I think we're on live now. All right, so we're back, everyone. We just had a brief intermission, a brief pause. We're going to be doing differences in the book of Micah here. We're going to be continuing here, so let me just get back to here. Yeah. All right, so the last one I did was Micah chapter 1, verse 5. The LXX in that particular verse has in reverence, Masoretic text, transgression, or sin. In reverence, just to explain, or impiety, they might say in the Bretons, is not revering the Father. So just to explain that, that's what that means. Micah chapter 5, verse 6 says, in chaos in the Septuagint. So that's interesting. It seems like the Masoretic doesn't have this in this particular verse. So, and obviously this is talking about the sin of his people. Probably the fact that it's talking about destruction, his wrath coming upon them. And it says, verse 6, and I will make Samaria, Samaria, the Samaritans, for a storehouse of fruits of the field and for planting a vineyard. And I will tear down in chaos. And that's G5478. So that is not in the Masoretic. Just says, therefore I will make Samaria as a heap of the field. So chaos versus heap. So heap, you can kind of get it. It's talking about destruction, but it's a little less specific. As plantings of the vineyard, I will pour down the stones thereof in the valley, and I will discover the foundations whereof. So it's just very generalized. It's very, you can get a heap means like a heap for destruction in context, but Septuagint makes it look a lot more specific with the word chaos there. So let's see here. LXX of Micah 1:7 says eradicated, meaning, to be fully destroyed, something eradicated. Like I remember when I used to watch the Star Wars, they actually used this word for, the evil emperor guy would say eradicating the Jedi, So eradication means like complete destruction, desolation. Masoretic text shall return. So this is kind of interesting. This is a huge difference here in Micah 1:7. All right, so Micah 1:7 says, "And all her carved images I will cut in pieces, and all her hires shall burn in fire, and all her idols I shall establish for extinction or eradication, because of the hires of harlotry she gathered together, and of the hires of harlotry he eradicated." So again, this is in context talking about how his wife Israel went after other gods. That's what he means by harlotry. He doesn't mean sexual harlotry. He's talking about idolatry. That's what it's so. "And all the graven images thereof shall be beaten in pieces, and all the hires with burned with fire, and idols I will lay desolate, for she gathered of the hire of a harlot, and they shall return." So it's almost like more favorable to apostate Israel in the Masoretic, which I kind of find it funny. They're actually being spoken of more favorable versus Yahuwah is going to destroy all their idols. He's going to, punish them. There's no mentioning of, them returning at that point. So it's kind of interesting. So now we're going to go to verse 8. LXX says she, Masoretic text says I. And I also have a little note here that says the Apostolic Bible Polyglot mentions dragons and sirens. Okay, so we're going to look at...
I'm okay.
All right, Mom?
My legs are just hurting a little bit. I'm okay.
All right. Okay. Let's see. Micah chapter 1, verse 8. "Because of this she shall beat her chest and wail. She shall go barefoot and naked. She shall make a beating of the breast," talking about, lamentation, beating of the breast, "as dragons, and the mourning as daughters of sirens." Now, if you don't know what a siren is, you might want to look at the book of Enoch. Okay, that will tell you what a siren is. Basically the women that did the stuff with the angels in Genesis 6, some of them clung to the angels and continued to do so, and they became sirens. So they became what Disney has fashionized in modern day as mermaids, as popularized as mermaids. So mermaids are actually abomination. They are basically the women that wanted to actually be clung to these angels and wanted to make them their husbands, and they didn't repent from what happened in Genesis 6:4, and they continued, and it's probably the second incursion women that became sirens. They actually willfully went with the angels, because the first incursion seems more like rape, like they took whom they chose. So probably the sirens were the women that willfully wanted to be with the angels. So that's what a siren is according to Enoch. But anyway, so the Masoretic text does not mention dragon. I think it mentions dragons, and the difference here, so is mourning as the owls. What?
Yeah.
Owls? Okay. Yeah, that doesn't even make sense.
Mine says moan like an owl.
Morning, moan as an owl. So owl moans. I mean, I don't know. I guess they do, but I've never seen that before. It would make a lot more sense as talking about the sirens, in my opinion. But anyway, so now we're going to go back to the document here. Take this along. All right, there we go. So now we're going to go to Micah chapter 1, verse 10, which says, "Exalt not yourselves," in the Septuagint, and the Masoretic text says, "Weep not." Again, two different contexts. Weep not is referring not to mourn. Exalt not yourselves is referring to do not become prideful.
Right.
So I mean, two completely different things. So now we're going to go to the e-sword so I can show you guys here. So that's verse 10 of that chapter. I hate how the stupid thing keeps going. The ones in Gath, we were just talking about the Philistines off record before, okay? The ones in Gath, do not magnify yourselves, and O ones in Bakim, do not rebuild the house with laughter. Earth strew on your laughter. So let's see here. That's kind of interesting. So the Septuagint says, do not magnify yourselves. Okay, so, so do not exalt yourself.
Right.
And then the Masoretic text says, weep not at all. So it makes it look like Yahuwah is on Gath's side, the side of the Philistines in the Masoretic text. I'm just sorry, that doesn't make any sense the way the Masoretic text has that reading. Gath is the place of the Philistines, not his people. And they're abominations. They're giants. He's not going to be on their side. So why would he even, it would be like him saying to them, do not weep, and trying to comfort them would be the same thing him telling a giant to repent. Doesn't make any sense. If you look at it in context, it doesn't make any sense. In the house of Ephrath, roll yourself in the dust. I don't know. To me, that doesn't make any logical sense. I mean, I guess his people could be in Gath, but that wouldn't make any sense because they were never in captivity in Gath. So, I don't know. To me, that's kind of weird. So, I think this makes a lot more sense. Do not magnify yourself. So, he's speaking against the Philistines. And let's see here. Let's see, verse 11, Masoretic text says, nakedness and shame, which is pretty interesting. So we're going to go to verse 11 here. And we're going to go, so verse 11. Her inhabiting well, her cities did not come forth. Her inhabiting Za'an, or probably this is talking about Canaan, to beat her chest. House next to her, she shall receive from your calamity of grief. Okay, and the Masoretic says, pass ye away, thou inhabitants of Seir, having your shame naked. So again, this is talking about sin, allegorically, your nakedness, your shame. The inhabitant of Zaanan, I don't know why there's a Z instead of a C there. That's kind of weird. I would think this is talking about the place Canaan. I don't know why there's Za'anan. Yeah, I mean, that probably should be Canaan. Come not forth in the morning of Bethazel. He shall receive of you his standing. So that's kind of weird. We shall receive of you his standing. And then in the Septuagint, it says, shall receive from your calamity of grief. I mean, two completely different contexts. One is positive in the Masoretic, and one is very bad in the Septuagint. It sounds like he's executing his judgment on them. So verse 12 says, in the Masoretic text, will say anxiously, which the Septuagint doesn't have in that verse. So it says, for the inhabitant of Marath waited carefully for Tob, but evil came down from Yahuwah unto the gate of Jerusalem. Who began for Tob to her dwelling in griefs, for bad came down from Yahuwah upon the gates of Jerusalem. So this is interesting. The Septuagint here has griefs. So I guess, evil, griefs, I guess that's the same thing. See here. So what was the word I was looking for here that I had on the notes? Anxiously. Could just be the translation doing anxiously for the Masoretic text. Let me see here. Might have been the JPS Tanakh that was doing that. Let me see here. I'm just curious why it says that, and I'm not seeing it. Yeah, okay, the JPS Tanakh translated the Hebrew word anxiously. Okay, that's where I got that. All right. Okay, LXX of the verse 14 in this chapter says, he and vain, so two words that are different in this with the Septuagint is he and vain. And then the Masoretic text has you instead of he, and then akzib instead of vain. So that's kind of interesting. So we'll go to that verse real quick. So verse 14 of that chapter. So yeah, vain G3152 mata eos, profitlessness, basically pointlessness, like I like to say. So that's what it means by vain. Okay. All right, so now we look at the Masoretic text. It says, therefore shall you give a parting gift to Moresheh Gath, the house of Akzib. So the house of Akzib is not in the Septuagint, but it's there in the Masoretic. So that's pretty much the main difference there. But also it doesn't talk about vanity in the Masoretic, which is kind of weird. So just says a deceitful thing unto the kings of Israel. Very weird. Mm-hmm. Very weird. So that's another thing they're lacking there. So now we're going to go back to the document here. Okay, so now we got chapter 2, verse 1. The Masoretic text lacks Elohim. So now we're going to go to chapter 2, verse 1. Masoretic text. Okay, so we're going to go to chapter 2, verse 1. They came devising troubles, working evils on their beds, and together during the day they complete them, for they lifted not to Elohim. They lifted not to Elohim their hands, meaning they did not lift their hands in, praise or praying to him. In the Masoretic, it just says, woe to them that devise lawlessness and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they execute it because it is in the power of their hand. What? There's no mention of Elohim there. There's no mention of the Father there. There's no mention of raising their hands to him. They did not raise their hands to him. So it's completely just talking about humans. Yahuwah is taken out of the picture in the Masoretic text. There's no mention of him in that verse at all. Yeah, I'm just going to see if the King James does it. Nope, power of their hand. Oh, that's great. Just take the creator out of the picture. That's just wonderful. Wonderful. So, Micah chapter 2, verse 2 lacks orphans. Now, this is interesting. This might give some insight to why the Pharisees were so anti-orphan and widow. So, if you go to verse 2 here, it says, and they desired fields and they plundered orphans. G37. 3:7 is the Greek word here for orphans. Orphanos. Okay. Yeah, our English language is pretty close to the Greek. Very close. And the Masoretic says, and they covet fields and take by violence and houses and take away. So they oppress a man and his house, even a man and his heritage. So no mention of the orphans with the man in his house. Is just mentioning a man in his household. Nothing about oppressing the orphans, which actually was happening in those days with Yahuwah's people. Yeah. So, see here. Gonna go continue here. Verse 6. Septuagint says, weep. Masoretic text says, preach. Okay, that's a lot different. Okay, so let's go to verse 6 here. Weep not tears. So the weep not is G3361. May. Not, lest. Oh, hold on. My bad. The weep part is G2799. Sorry, guys. Sometimes they put the first word after the second Greek word, so it gets confusing sometimes. Okay, so G2799 is the word for weep, and that's translated into English. To mourn, weep, lament. That is not in the Masoretic text of that verse. It just says prophesy. What the?
Yeah, that's what I have.
I don't know how you get. How is that even possible? That's completely two different words.
Yeah.
Nataf. The Hebrew word H5197. Nataf. For he will not thrust away scorn. It makes a lot of sense, especially he's talking about his people. Do not weep, because it's talking about, in prophecy, he talks about Yahuwah taking his people back when he returns. When Yahushua returns, he's going to take back the outcasts of his people. So it makes a lot more sense that the Septuagint says weep not rather than prophesy not. That makes no logical sense at all. So now we're going to go on and see here. Micah chapter 2, verse 7. The Masoretic text has my, and the LXX has Yahuwah, which is kind of interesting. So we're going to look at Micah chapter 2, verse 7. Okay. Let's see here. 7. The one saying, House of Jacob provoked to anger the spirit of Yahuwah, G2962. All right, and then we have named the house of Jacob is the spirit of Yahuwah straightened these doings. Do not my words. Okay, no, the difference actually here is his versus my. Okay, so that's like first person versus second person. That's not that big of a deal. Okay. So hold on a second. Okay. All right, so we're gonna go to, sorry about that, guys. So the actual difference is not Yahuwah. It's actually the LXX has his, and the Masoretic says my. So that's the main difference from that one. Micah 2:8, Masoretic text lacks his and him. So this is interesting. All right, so we're gonna look at that next. All right, so Masoretic text. So we're going to go to the next verse here in chapter 2. In the former times, my people for enmity opposed against his peace, his skin. They flayed to remove expectation of conflict, of war. Okay, so even of late, my people has risen up as an enemy. You pull off the robe with the garment from them that pass by securely as men adverse from war. So it seems like instead of his, it's as. So it's more of like a metaphor, the way the Masoretic text is reading it. It's more allegorical versus a little bit more literal and specific, the way the Septuagint has it worded there. So basically, it's talking about Yahuwah's people opposed him, they transgressed against him, and against his shalom, even his shalom. So it's just a little bit more specific, talking about what the enmity is there. So, and Micah chapter 2, verse 9 says, leaders, and Masoretic text, you. So we got we're going to go to, okay, it says, in the Septuagint, it says, the ones leading my people shall be thrown from out of houses, their luxuries, because of wicked practices, there they were pushed out. Approach to the everlasting mountains. So let's see here. We got let's see here. So leaders, so the ones that are leading my people versus you. So it's weird. So it's more of like a first person type of thing here. With the Masoretic text, it's you cast out versus the leaders of my people. So the Septuagint is being a little bit more specific, and the Masoretic text is being more generalized, and it's a different type of speech it's using. The Masoretic text is using a first person speech versus a second and third person. So Micah chapter 2, verse 10, the Septuagint actually lacks the word grievous here, which is kind of interesting. Something that's grievous, like something that's a burden. So we're going to go to verse 10 here. Okay, so it says, arise, you, and depart from this, not rest, because it is polluted, it shall destroy, even a sore destruction. So the King James is not showing grievous. I wonder if this was the JPS Tanakh here, the Jewish Publican Society Tanakh. I wonder if they're the one that does it. Okay, hold on a second. Verse 10, grievous. So let's look at where that is. Arise ye and depart, for this is not your resting place, because of the uncleanness thereof. It shall destroy you, even with a sore destruction. Huh. Interesting. I don't know where I'm getting grievous from, so I might get rid of that bullet point. I made a mistake with that one. Sometimes when I'm preparing these studies, sometimes I mess up the certain verses I get wrong, so I'll just leave that one out. There doesn't seem to be a big difference with that at all. All right, so verse 11 in chapter 2 says, you have fled and no one pursuing you, which you can cross with Proverbs 28:1. And Masoretic text says, I will preach. So again, it's weird. So again, instead of talking about them in a wicked way, the Masoretic talks about them in like a positive light. It's very weird. So it says, verse 11 in the Septuagint, you were pursued by no one pursuing, meaning, you ran when no one was pursuing you. Your spirit established lying. It trickled you with wine and for strong drink, and it will be from the drop of this people. So Yahuwah is using the allegory of wine and strong drink to show their spirituality, their idolatry, their spiritual whoredom. Verse 11, the Masoretic says, if a man walking in wind and falsehood do lie, I will preach to you. I will preach unto you of wine. Okay, so Yahuwah is preaching unto them of wine, but there's no mention of them fleeing when no one pursues, which I think is a big problem, because that phrase actually connects with Proverbs 28:1 to show you their wickedness, to show you how wicked they were. They were actually afraid and not being bold as a lion, not being righteous. So Proverbs 21 says the wicked man flees when no one pursues, but the righteous is as confident as a lion. So that's the reason I think that was an important difference to show there. So that was verse 11 of Micah chapter 2. So Micah chapter 2, verse 13, Septuagint says, I will cause them to return together. This is important. So this is talking about the second Exodus. So this is pretty important that the Septuagint has this. For some reason, the Masoretic text, I guess, doesn't have the word together. which I find kind of interesting. So Micah 2:13. Just to make it simple for everyone, I'm going to use the Brens on the Septuagint side. Okay, so let's see here. They have broken through and passed the gate and gone out by it, and their king has gone out before them, and Yahuwah shall lead them. Okay, so, and their king has gone out before them, Yahuwah shall lead them. Okay. Let's see here. I swore it said together on that one. I could have sworn it said together on that one. And went through the green, came forth through, and went forth their king, and Yahuwah shall lead them. Okay. All right. Let's see. Passed before them, the breakers gone forth, they that have by the gate and are gone out thereat, and their king is passed on before them, and Yahuwah at the head of them. Yeah, actually, that's the same thing. So never mind. I'll take that one back. I could have swore there was something about them being together. So never mind. I'll just have to adjust that. There's no real difference in that one. Sorry about that. Micah chapter 3, verse 1. LXXE says remnant. Masoretic text says rulers. So a little bit different there. Chapter 3, verse 1 says, and he shall say, hear indeed, O heads of Jacob, and O remnant of the house of Yasharal. Is it not for you to know equity? Let's see. Let me get a more modern version of the Septuagint there. Equity. Judgment. Okay. Makes more sense. All right. And I said, here I pray you, you heads of Jacob and rulers of the house of Israel. Okay. So heads of Jacob, rulers of the house of Israel, not to know justice. Yeah, again, this is weird. Unless the King James is just messing up, and that's why I had all these extra ones that seem to be different. Yeah, heads of Jacob. Oh, okay. No mention of remnant. Okay. Princes of the house of Israel instead of remnants. Okay, that's the difference. So princes could be just more leaders, rather than actual remnant. A remnant would be like a full remnant, not just leaders, but a full remnant of the house of Israel. So that's the difference there in Micah 3:1. So let me just clarify that a little bit. Yeah, remnant, and I'll put princes just so people don't get confused. So I think probably I put rulers because rulers, princes, pretty much it's they're pretty much similes for one another. So all right, so verse 6 of chapter 3, prophecy is Septuagint has prophecy. Masoretic text has divine. Now this is pretty interesting. So, because divine is general, you got pagans that divine, and you got Yahuwah that gives prophecy, that sometimes is referred to as divination. Like, basically the word divination is not evil of itself. Like, divination sometimes, especially in the King James, Joseph would say, with this cup I divine. So it's talking about the prophecy of Yahuwah. It's not meaning that, he's doing weird black magic or anything.
Oh, excuse me. Coffee.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay. All right. So Brenton Septuagint says, therefore there shall be night to you instead of a vision. Talking about prophecy, vision. And there shall be to you darkness instead of prophecy. And the sun shall go down. The prophets in the day shall be dark upon them. Hold on, sis. I see your hands raised. I'll get to you in a second. Therefore, night shall be unto you that you shall not have a vision, and it shall be dark unto you that you shall not divine. So it's just generalized. This could be bad type of divination, which is forbidden in Torah, and then, like I said, the definition in the King James of divine just means to have knowledge of the future. So sometimes that comes from a bad source, and sometimes that comes
Right.
from a good source. Sometimes you got people talking to the dead. That type of divination is bad. And then basically it's an old word. It's an old British word that sometimes is used for prophecy, referring to Yahuwah giving prophecy to people like Daniel and Joseph. And
Yeah, you see the Daniel.
and shall go down over the prophets, and they shall be dark over them. So basically the difference here is Septuagint is making it a little bit more clear what type of prophecy is going on, whether this is, or who's actually giving the vision, if that makes any sense. So, but anyway, I think our sister, or one of our brothers and sisters had their hand raised. All right, go ahead.
That was me. Okay. So, I'm sorry, brother. I respectfully disagree with you about the word divination. It says here that divination means magical scroll by implication, prudent soothsayer,
Yeah.
also includes its oracle, reward, divine sentence, witchcraft. I don't know. I mean, as far as I know, the Bible tells us
What
that the Father, wait. The Father says that we are not to engage with those who seek to know about things in the future, soothsayers, mediums that look into, speak to, or they're basically influenced by demons that speak through spirits to them and give them information about the dead. And when you say that divination has different meanings besides what the Bible says,
explain that. Let me explain that, sis. Because in the King James, go to the King James dictionary. That will show you that divination is a lot more general than you think. It's not always referring to what you're just talking about. Okay? Even in your King James, when it's talking about Joseph with that cup, it uses that word. So are you going to say Joseph was doing black magic? So
well, all I'm saying is that divination means witchcraft. It means soothsayer.
not always.
That's what it means in the Bible. So I'm a little confused about the fact that divination to you does not mean.
Because what it says in the dictionary of the King James Bible. That's what it says. It says to get knowledge of the future from a higher power.
Okay, so what does that mean? What does that mean, though, Doug? To get knowledge from a higher power, knowledge of the future? Is the Father's not telling us to do that.
Where you start.
He's telling us the opposite.
Hold on. Let me speak. Is Yahuwah a higher power? Yes or no?
He's the highest.
You know what? I'm not going to dispute that. I'm not saying that Yahuwah is not a higher power. But where does it say in the Bible that we're supposed to be looking to find out about things in the future?
We're not looking into it, but Joseph was given a vision, and it says in Scripture they use that word divine. So either they mistranslated that word, or King James
Well,
in the
we
old
all-
King James.
We all have dreams as well. We get dreams from the Father. We get visions from the Father, and it's just an interpretation.
But
the dreams that Joseph had
You're
were dreams that were given to him to interpret things that were going to happen. Divination to me means what it means. It means witchcraft.
But
It means speaking things in the future.
that from? What source? What dictionary are you getting that from? Where are you getting that from? That it's because I can show you the source that I have.
That's coming from the Strong's Hebrew lexicon.
Okay, well, the King James Dictionary, which Strong's gets its definitions from, says that it gives a way more general definition for the word divination.
Well, here it says in HR 7080, witchcraft,
Okay,
soothsayer, magical scroll.
is that the definition it gives?
That's the definition it gives
There's no
for divination. augury, divination.
Hey, what's the number for Strong's so I can look it up?
7080.
7080, because the 1611 dictionary is not saying that. It's not.
And 7081.
H7081. Because I've looked at this before when we've read through Genesis.
No, 7081 and 7080.
80.com.
Strong's Hebrew Lexicon. I'm looking at it right now.
It says prudence. Soothsayer's like the fourth definition.
Okay, so go to 708.
Nation.
Go to 7081.
Yeah, I'm at there.
Is that 7081? Okay, go to 7080.
I'm at there right now on the screen. And like I said, soothsayer is the last definition. It's not even the primary definition. That's why I'm saying we got to be careful not to generalize just because in some instances, yes, it's used to describe black magic, but it's not always used for that. I can give you the verse in Genesis where Joseph, which I truly believe he would have never used black magic, it says, I divine with this cup. That
Hey, I don't see, I'm looking at it on the Strong's lexicon research results in 7081 from 7080, also divination, including its field, oracle, reward of divination, divine sentence, witchcraft. So just because soothsayer is the last one there.
That is the last one. It's not even the primary definition of that word.
So because it's the last one, what does that mean exactly? I'm just trying to understand what you're saying, brother. I'm not trying to argue with you. I'm just trying to understand what you're saying. I mean, it says here it's witchcraft.
Make a word like that that is not specified just because we have a stigma about that word. That word is used in a positive sense with referring to Yahuwah revealing a prophecy to someone. That is also considered divination. So we can't just pick and choose what definitions we want. What I'm trying to say, sis, is soothsaying is one of its definitions. It's not its only definition. So we can't just say that word of itself is evil. That's what I'm trying to say. And the King James Dictionary, I can pull it up right now. It's a lot more generalized than what Strong's is giving you. And I would trust that dictionary because it's based upon a much older dictionary, the Webster's 1828 dictionary. So I can go on that now and show you that it's a lot less specified than we think. The word divination is a lot less specific than we think.
So divination in the Encyclopedia Britannica says the practice of determining the hidden significance or cause of events, sometimes foretelling the future by various natural, psychological, or other techniques. And it also says the practice of attempting to foretell future events or discover hidden knowledge by occult or supernatural means, prophecy, the divination of the high priest was fulfilled. I mean, I'm just trying to find out in the Bible where divination or divine has a meaning of positive and negative. That's all I'm trying to see. I mean, I guess there is a stigma that you're saying that there is, but I'm trying to find that.
Please look at the screen I'm putting up. Okay, this is the King James Authorized 1611 dictionary. So this is a dictionary of all the words used in the 1611 when they meant these things, before the English language was modernized. Okay, divinator, one who pretends to divination, but then you also, it says divine, pertaining to the true God, as divine nature, divine perfections. So there, even the root word of it is not always evil, okay?
So it could mean darkness or light.
Let me show you, look, Mom, divine, to foreknow, to foretell. That can be good or bad. That's what I'm trying to say, is that you got to look at the original definition of that Old English word divination. It's an Old English word. it doesn't always mean evil. We have a stigma that just because we see that word being used in the Torah saying, don't go to a soothsayer, someone practicing augury and divination.
Right.
But what we got to understand is that that word divine or divination is not always evil. What I'm trying to say is that particular word is not always evil. So it's sometimes referring just to having knowledge of the future, which Joseph was given knowledge of the future through dreams. Dreams
Right.
can be divination. According to this definition, that's from the King James Dictionary. This is the original authorized 1611 King James Dictionary. So this goes way before the Strong's Concordance. This is from the 1820 Webster's Dictionary it's based off of, way before any of our modern dictionaries. So I would say just be careful not to lump the word divination and associate it with evil automatically just because in one instance it's used in the context of black magic. That's what I'm trying to say. That's all I'm trying to say. Just be careful not to lump it in with it's automatically evil when the King James Dictionary is saying otherwise. It's saying
And
that,
Doug?
yeah.
Yeah, on C.J. Coster's book, he gives a little bit of a definition of this. Divine, divinity, deity, theos, it all comes from the same root. Translated theos in Greek, similar to and related deos in Greek, deus in Latin. Basically, it means shining one.
Yeah.
Bright or to shine. It's sun, bright sky, sky deity. It can mean different things, but that's basically where it comes from. I mean, he's got a whole paragraph or more on it.
Yeah, so basically, divination in a general sense is getting revelation from someone that's not human, okay? To explain, when Daniel is approached in that dream by an angel, that is a form of divining. Because why? Because
Right.
power is giving him a vision. That's all it means. It could be good or it could be bad. Because the bad way is that they're seeking augury and a specific type of divination that's evil. So I think we need
Correct.
I'm sorry that this caused a huge argument, but I just want to make it clear we cannot use stigmas that we've learned on words when we don't even know the definitions of these words. We have to look into the original definitions of these British and Old English words because it's not in our modern English language. And what happens is since the 1800s, there's been tons of dictionaries coming out redefining words and giving new definitions. And who knows, Strong's, he could have based his definition solely on the modern definition of that word. Because Strong's Concordance didn't come out until like what, the 1700s, 1800s at best. Okay, so he's going off of newer modern definitions of that word, even though he's basing his concordance off of the King James. And basically the King James Dictionary tells you that it's just generally talking about having knowledge of future events. That's all divination means. So for us to say that's automatically evil is wrong because Daniel was given knowledge of future events. Joseph was given knowledge of future events. And in, like I said, in the 1611 King James, you can look up in Genesis, in the 1611 King James, Joseph says with his cup, he divines.
Doug, what I said was that there was some confusion about what you were saying. I wasn't saying what you're saying. All I said is that divination, as far as what I read in the Strong's Concordance, it said witchcraft and all this other stuff. So I was asking, that's what I was doing. I was basically asking, why was there so many differences in what it was being ascribed to as to divination?
Because
That's all.
it's a general term. That's why. It's a general, basically it's a general word used for gaining knowledge of future events. Either you could gain a knowledge from Yahuwah giving it to you, where the guys are not seeking after it, but they're being given it for a purpose, or someone seeking after it of their own will. through mediums and through demons and stuff like that. That's what I'm trying to say. So I mean, you can look in older Bibles, they will use that term sometimes with certain prophets.
You see it here with Nebuchadnezzar, diviner. Yeah, it can be an evil thing, but I believe it depends on where the power
The context.
the context.
Who is giving the vision? Who is giving the knowledge of the future? And is the person going out of their way to gain knowledge of the future for an evil purpose?
Right.
That's what would be the difference. And I mean, I just read about it the other day in Genesis that Joseph says it. They use that term. So obviously Joseph was not doing any magic. So that's why I agree with the 1611 dictionary over Strong's Concordance. And I've seen certain times where Strong's is not exactly 100% accurate, where they go with modern definitions of words, and they tend to have a stigma about them where they're like, and even with the Strong's, soothsaying is not even the only definition. You have multiple different definitions for that word. So all I'm trying to say, it's a general word. It does not mean it's necessarily evil. So that's something I just wanted to explain on.
Good conversation,
I
though.
thank Marissa for asking that.
Me too.
Because honestly, I've mentioned it before when we've read through Genesis, but I never fully expounded or explained about it. And really, I didn't know. I always thought divining was evil until I came across the 1611 dictionary that actually gives all the definitions for that one word. And it's very confusing because we see it in one aspect. It says, don't seek after those that divine, but then in Genesis, Joseph's divining. And if we think that divination is just an evil word of itself, then we're gonna think that Joseph was sinning in Egypt then, because he's actually telling his brothers he divines with that cup, that silver cup. So, we have to try to differentiate, maybe divination has a broader definition than we realize. That's all I'm trying to say. So, it's just talking about given future events. Someone that, a celestial being giving future events to someone is basically what it means. And so, yes, it could be soothsaying and stuff like that if someone's, trying to talk to the dead, especially, so I just wanted to explain that. Sorry.
Say something?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what it came to mind when you had said that was like the last reference was soothsaying or divination. Okay, so when we get food, when we buy a product, the first few names on the product that we buy are the ones that it has more of. And so I was thinking, how Satan is always trying to mimic our father or copycat or do things to make confusion come. And he takes whatever Abba has, like Yahweh, I think YHWH, I think he's trying to turn that into, that there was also some stuff behind that. But remember, he is a mimicker. He is a copycat. He likes to twist things up. He likes to, look what, for example, I learned the divination, soothsayer, and all that through Christianity, which in Christianity, whoa, that's like palm reading and card tarot reading and all that's all bad. So I would have automatically, I'm glad I heard this conversation and the questioning of Marissa going back and forth with you and you guys bringing it out to the open, because we have been taught so many lies. Here's another plucking situation that we need to do, So there's things that we will constantly be plucking out of what we were taught, and I remember a brother of ours used to say, be careful what you let enter into your ears. Be careful what you entertain, because, it could come to trip us up. And this is what happens is that we've had a lot of stuff we listened to that we didn't recognize and we didn't know. So, I thank you both for coming. I hope that you guys don't think it's an argument or anything. I think it's what we call digging in. deeper, to find out deeper finds deeper. You know, we got to, you know, understand with each other. You know, maybe you know, we get a little feathers get a little ruffled here and there, but really, it's, don't let the enemy think that that's what it was. I believe that, you know, he didn't want us to know what was right. He didn't want us to know the truth, and now we do know the truth. So we got to really know. This is good, Doug, because, man, you're turning over some stones that, man, we have already built altars on. You know what I mean? And I thank you for doing your research to bring out these things, because the word says to seek me as hidden treasures and you will find me. So, Marissa, thank you for bringing that thought up to mind, and thank you guys for explaining it to us. Okay, yeah. I really appreciate it.
One of the tactics that Satan does use is confusion. He wants you to be at odds or at confusion over something. And I believe as long as we're looking at where that power is coming from, you know, as long as it's from, you know, Yahusha, you know, it's from that supreme power that is the truth, that, you know, that's what it really depends on. Yeah, and it could be from darkness. It could be. You know, so that I think the discussion is an excellent one, and you know, it depends on who it's coming from. You know.
Yeah. So basically, according to the King James, it means to foretell something. That's all it means. Mm-hmm. According to the King James Dictionary, the primary definition, which I agree with Sister Sadie, and I really. If only translators would be watching this video.
Yeah.
If I have a message to say to you Bible translators, always go with a primary definition when you translate a word. Yeah. Don't go with the last definition. Because what the last definition is, that means that is the farthest from the primary meaning. Mm-hmm. Anything that's like the 4/5 definition of a word, that's like the least primary meaning and the least likely to be what it means. Mm-hmm. So when, you know, yes, pagan people use a bad type of divining, which is called soothsaying, which is truth. But it doesn't mean that word always means soothsaying. And I think, you know, just the fact that it's the fourth definition shed some light on it, that's the very last definition of it. I usually, when I'm looking at the Strong's or Thayer's, go with the primary definition, and if the Strong's is not giving you enough, look on, you know, different dictionary websites. This is a good website because this is from 1611. This is from when most likely the word would have came out, when the word first came out. So this would have been, you know, and they even give you, you know, they let you know where they get their definitions from. It says, you know, website AV 1611. They talk about how they get their definitions from the 1820 Webster Dictionary. So, and the Webster Dictionary we have today is a lot more modern. Like if you look for the Webster Dictionary right now online, I think the latest one that came out was 2003. So you're talking about definitions that have like modernized throughout the ages. So I would really recommend this website. It's called av1611.com. It has every word that's used in the 1611 King James and probably used in the New King James and other versions of the King James. And you can see the original meaning of it. So basically, divination means to foretell future events.
Doug, what's the name of that? Is it what?
av1611.com. So it's the King James 1611 dictionary, basically. It has every word that is in the 1611 edition. So, and it's in other Bibles too, because other Bibles, you know, somewhat copy the King James with certain words like divination and other that.
Even my Bible uses diviner in Daniel.
Now, diviner referring now in a
to
bad
the
way.
astrologers,
Right?
the group of magic people.
Usually
that
you'll see that.
Like Nebuchadnezzar would come to first.
The good way is usually you don't see much other than Joseph. He's probably the only one you actually see it being shown. But yeah, basically it means to foretell. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, Joseph's source is Yahuwah, so you know he would be the righteous version of it, versus the unrighteous, versus them trying to contact the dead. Probably Nebuchadnezzar's astrologers were trying to contact
Yeah,
the dead.
it was part of his group, his whole group.
And also the astrologers would try to get future prophecies by looking into the stars and the constellations. They would try to look at the signs of the heavens, and they would worship the sign of the heavens and trying to get knowledge from the signs of the heavens. That's why Yahuwah warned his people, don't be awed at the stars and awed at the constellations, because the Gentiles are. They're in awe of them, meaning they adore them so much that they worship them. So that's another way that it's a bad way of divination. Like the evil form of divination would be like seeking astrology, seeking the signs. You hear people out in the world, what's your sign?
Your number, your sign, whatever.
Are you this? Are you a that? I don't even want to say the names of stupid stuff in astrology.
Mm-mm.
But I've heard so many girls in my lifetime say, "Hey, what's your sign?"
Oh, sure.
I'd be like, "No, I don't believe in that. Sorry, I don't believe in astrology. Sorry." But anyway, so this definition gives more straight to the point, and it gives a more in-depth definition of it. For telling future events, discovering things secret or obscure, which actually in the book of Daniel, Nebuchadnezzar says to Daniel, your Elohim reveals secrets.
Yes.
So that would be the righteous way of divining, is because Yahuwah is revealing secret things to Daniel, and Daniel's not seeking them out to explain. He's being revealed it to him without even wanting it. It's kind of like how King Solomon had that beautiful prayer in the book of 2nd Chronicles, and he didn't ask for riches. The Gentiles seek after riches. The Gentiles idolize riches and money. Solomon didn't even want it. He cared more about having knowledge to rightly rule Israel.
Yeah.
That's all he cared about. And Yahuwah gave him riches because he didn't ask for it.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because
so that's a good example of the difference in motives.
Yes.
Seeking after riches versus not really caring about riches, and then Yahuwah gives it to him. So that's a good example too of difference in motives, you could say.
He's after our heart's desire.
But
he
anyway,
knows what our...
Let's get back here.
Okay.
I think we were halfway through. We were almost at chapter 4 almost, I think, by now.
Right, where the heck am I?
We were at remnant. We did remnant and princes in Micah chapter 3, verse 1, but I'm glad we went on that rabbit trail. That was important.
No, that was good.
That was important. Verse 6, prophecy. Oh, yeah, this is what brought it up, prophecy versus divine. So, again, I like how the Septuagint uses prophecy, especially since we've been kind of brought up in that, the stigma of the word divine. So I kind of like how that helps people out a little bit. And, Micah chapter 3, verse 7, LXXE says prophecy again. And then the Masoretic text says divine, but also the Masoretic text has Elohim where the Septuagint doesn't, which is a little weird. Okay, so this is where it's a point for the Masoretic text, you could say. Let's see here. The seers of night visions shall be ashamed, and the prophets and the diviners. So this is how you can prove that diviner is not always evil. So diviner is being used for profit. Okay. Shall be laughed to scorn. And all the people shall speak against them, because there shall be none to hearken to them. Now, I like the Masoretic here because it says, they shall all cover their lips for no answer of Elohim, H430. So Elohim's actually there. Septuagint, for some reason, doesn't have it there. And I'll just make a double check. I'll go to the Apostolic Bible Polyglot. Sometimes they fix what Brenton messes up. So, nope. Okay, so Elohim's not there for some reason. And like I've explained before, the problem is too with our modern Septuagints is they were translated into Latin before they were translated into English. So the Vatican did get their hands on the modern copy of a copy we have of the Septuagint. So sometimes there are errors and stuff like that. So just to let people know. Micah chapter 3, verse 9 says, in the Septuagint, remnant. In the Masoretic text, rulers. I think we had a similar one to that before. You know, see here. Hear indeed these, O leaders of the house of Jacob, and O remnants of the house of Yasharal, the ones abhorring equity and all perverting straightness. So this is probably talking about people that are misconstruing Yahuwah's word. Okay, hear this, I pray you, heads of the house of Jacob and princes of the house of Yasharal, that abhor judgment and pervert all equity. So that would probably be judgment more specifically. So I'm trying to see what is the difference here? See, verse 9 is supposed to say remnant and rulers. Let me see. Was there remnant? It says leaders. And I don't see remnant there. So that's interesting. Unless the JPS Tanakh has it there. Huh. Diviners, upper lips. Hold on. Passage rules of the house of the... Oh, here we go. My bad, guys. I'm blind as a bat. All right. Here we go. G2645 remnant. Kataluipos. All right, so kataluipos. Left down, that is remaining. So remnant. I like how it says the remnants of the house of Yasharal. It kind of goes along with prophecy and how there's going to be a remnant of Yasharal is going to be saved. And then in the Masoretic, it just says the heads of the house of Jacob. So more or less, it's just talking about the leaders rather than a whole remnant, which is, again, weird. In my opinion, it's like, why is remnant not there? Then we got chapter 3, verse 12, storehouse of fruits, Masoretic text, heaps. So the Septuagint in verse 12 would say storehouse of fruits. Okay. Which would probably refer maybe to the first fruits, possibly. I don't know. Maybe. Let me see here. Verse 12. On account of this, because of you, Sion, as a field shall be plowed, and Jerusalem as a storehouse of fruits will be, and the mountain of the house as a place of forest. Okay, so the storehouse of fruits. Okay. Masoretic just says, therefore shall Zion for your sake be plowed as a field. Very weird. No storehouse of fruits mentioned. Very strange. So I kind of like that about the Septuagint. Makes it a little bit more specific. And according to this note I have here, it says heaps in the Masoretic. Let me see here. So heaps. Yeah, shall become heaps. Oh, okay. So that's the difference, heaps versus storehouse of fruits. So very weird, because storehouse of fruits would be abundant. It wouldn't be destroyed. A heap is something that's destroyed. So very that's just another word that's really old English that most people don't know. I mean, most of us know what a heap is, but there are some people that don't know the older English. A heap is like destruction, like ruins. Micah chapter 4, verse 4 says, Almighty, and here we have the Masoretic text saying of armies. So the difference is you have it saying probably Yahuwah Sabaoth in the Masoretic in that verse, and in the Septuagint it would say Yahuwah Almighty. So a minor difference. So let me just see what verse is that. That's chapter 4, verse 4. Okay, so Micah chapter 4, verse 4. See, Micah 4:4, Micah 4:4. Against a nation abroad, a broad sword, and no longer should they learn to wage war. Now that sounds very similar to the millennial there. So let's see here. So against a nation, they shall no longer and shall rest each underneath his grapevine, each underneath his fig tree, and there shall not be one frightening, because the mouth of Yahuwah Almighty spoke these things. The Masoretic would say Yahuwah of armies, which is mistranslated in your Bibles as of hosts. The Hebrew word there is sabayot, I think it's pronounced, and so which means forces, armies, like the angelic armies of heaven. So that's what that's referring to. So very interesting difference there. Okay, so Micah chapter 4, verse 5. We're going to go to verse 5 here. We're going to try to get this stuff done. See if we can get it done today. So LXXE lacks Elohim. So we're going to look at verse 5 here. Okay, verse 5. For all the people shall go each in his own way, but we shall go in the name of Yahuwah our Elohim. Okay, it's there. Into the eon, which I want to explain this for a second. This Greek word eon, I know it's translated as forever sometimes, but it's not always forever. So look, in the Thayer's lexicon here, we have forever, comma, and unbroken age, comma, perpetuity of time, eternity. Sometimes it's forever, sometimes it's an age, unbroken age. Okay, this is important to understand, because in your Greek New Testament, where it says they burn forever and ever, they're in torment forever and ever, it's actually referring to an age when it says those that are thrown into the lake of fire with Satan, and the people that are thrown into there with Satan and his angels. They're not burning forever. They're not being tormented forever, like for eternity. They're being tormented for an eon, an age. It's important to understand that, because the forever torment is a false doctrine of Catholicism, and it goes back to Greek mythology. See, Greek mythology believes that Tartarus, hell, they combine the lake of fire with the grave. This is where in Christianity we've adopted something from Greek mythology, and we preach to people, oh, you're going to burn forever in the lake of fire. No, that's wrong. They're going to be destroyed in the lake of fire. Yes, they'll be tormented for an age, but ultimately they're destroyed. And the lake of fire, as far as I have seen, is no more after the new heaven, new earth. It's not even mentioned again. So that means the lake of fire ceases to exist. So this is important to understand. So this Greek word is G165, eon, or aeon. So that's important to understand. So, but I think I made a mistake here, because, okay, this is the Elohim that's missing. This part of the verse, not the last part. So let's see here. Is that really in there, though? I wonder if sometimes they add stuff in there. So every man sit under his vine and under his fig tree, and none shall. Yeah, okay. Wow. Okay, the JPS Tanakh actually added that Elohim there, the lowercase God. That was added in, and it's not in the Hebrew. So sorry about that, guys. I thought that was a difference. That's not really a difference. So actually, both versions of verse 5 have Elohim there. The first Elohim that has a lowercase God in the first part of the verse is not there in the Hebrew. So the JPS Tanakh added that in there. All right, so now we're going to go to verse 6. LXXE, those, Masoretic text, her. So we're going to go to verse 6, goes to the next verse here. Okay. In that day, says Yahuwah, I will gather together, being broken, being thrust away. I will make an even whom I've thrusted away. So yeah, the huge difference is thrusted away. Masoretic text says afflicted. I mean, afflicted, yeah, I can see that, but thrusted away is more like talking about him, like, spreading them out among the nations, kicking them out of the land. Okay, so it's more talking about the regathering of Yasharel, the regathering of his people, the way the Septuagint reads it. Her that halts, and I will gather her that has been driven out. So her that has been driven out. Okay, so thrust away, driven out. Okay. So yeah, it's kind of similar. All right, so let's see here. So those versus her. So just a little bit more specific, but it's pretty much the same thing. Verse 8 is dominion for the Septuagint in verse 8. So let's see here what the context of that is. Verse 8. And you, O tower of flock, Auster, the daughter of Zion, unto you shall come, and shall enter in the head of the foremost kingdom of Babylon, to the daughter of Jerusalem. Okay, so you tower of flock, you up tower of flock. Daughter of Zion, first dominion. Okay, so kingdom versus dominion, that's not really much of a difference. I'll have to take that one back. Well, dominion is more, yeah, that's pretty much the same thing. I don't think that's much of a difference. So, let's see here. I think the problem too is why there's some mistakes I made with this document is the JPS Tanakh likes to add in certain things that's not there. So dominion, kingdom. All right, so verse 10, Masoretic text lacks Elohim. So in chapter 4, verse 10 of Micah, we have the Masoretic text lacking Elohim. So it says, travail and take courage, O daughter of Zion, as the one giving birth, for now you shall come forth from city and shall encamp in plain and shall come unto Babylon. From there he shall rescue you, and from there he shall ransom you, Yahuwah your Elohim, from the hand of your enemies. Okay, so the Masoretic text here just has Yahuwah, just has the all caps Lord. There's no lowercase God after that. So the Septuagint actually says Yahuwah your Elohim. So your Elohim's not there in the Masoretic of verse 10 there. So, which I find very interesting since that's telling them that Yahuwah is their mighty one. So find that interesting. All right, so we are, and actually that was verse 11, guys. Sorry, I said verse 10, but it was verse 11. So verse 12 we're now on says, Septuagint lacks threshing. Okay, so now we're going to go to verse 12 here. But they knew not the devices of Yahuwah and perceived not his counsel. For he gathered them as sheaves for, oh wow, it actually has threshing floor here.
So does mine.
Okay, so the Masoretic text doesn't have threshing. Okay, so I messed up there. Okay, so it's supposed to be, I'm glad I caught that. It's actually the Masoretic text that doesn't have threshing there. Yeah, whoops. My bad. Gotta be more careful next time. All right, lacks threshing. Okay, so Micah chapter 5, verse 1. So now we're at chapter 5 here. Yeah, her favorite. Yeah, don't worry. Well,
I've been waiting for it all day.
we're probably not. I don't have verse 2 cited out because it's pretty much the same in both versions. But yeah, let's see here. LXXC completely hedged in. Masoretic text says you gather yourself in troops. So that's kind of interesting. So let's see. That's a little different there. And let's see here. So that was chapter 5, verse 1. We only got 2 more chapters after this one. Now shall be instructed, daughter, by obstruction. He ordered conflict for us. With a rod they shall strike upon the jaw the tribes of Yashar'al. So this seems to be talking about them being afflicted by this foreign ruler. Now gather yourself in troops. So it sounds more positive in the Masoretic, like he's like leading them out to war. In the other, it's, Yahuwah's actual chastising. He's using a pagan ruler to chastise them, because the Septuagint says, shall be obstructed, daughter, by an obstruction. But for he ordered conflict with us, a rod they shall strike. So yeah, it kind of sounds a little bit more positive in the Masoretic. So let's see here. We got verse 3, answer versus witness. I think that's 5 verse 3. Yeah, 5 verse 3. Okay, answer versus witness. Let's see here. On account of this, he will appoint them unto a time of giving birth. She shall give birth, and the remnants of their brothers shall return unto the sons of Yashar'al. So, therefore will I give them up. Will he give them up until the time she has travailed and has brought forth? Then the remnant of his brothers shall return until the children of Yashar'al. Yeah, there wasn't really a difference in this one. I didn't see. I wonder why I had that written down. Answer versus witness. Huh. So I don't see the word answer there. Yeah, oh, he will appoint. So appoint, probably in the Bretons it says answer. That's probably why. So appoint and answer are like the same thing. Okay, so answer. Huh. Interesting. There's no answer in either one of them. So I must have messed up there. You all right?
Yeah.
All right, so never mind that one. Let's go to verse 4 of chapter 5. LXE lacks the word acts. So let's see here. Okay, let's go there and see here. Gonna go to verse 4 here. Okay. Verse 4 says, and Yahuwah shall stand, see, and feed his flock. Okay, this is a big one. Yahuwah is in the Septuagint. Masoretic text just says he. Who's the he? That's a little weird. So in the Masoretic it just says he shall feed his flock, or he shall feed in the strength. But the Septuagint says, and Yahuwah shall stand and see and feed his flock with power. So a lot more specific in the Septuagint in verse 4. Mm-hmm. So Yahuwah is not even mentioned in the Masoretic of that verse. So now we're going. Oh no, I was supposed to be at 6 verse 4. Oh, my bad, guys. Wow. Okay, my bad. It's my fault. All right, so chapter 6 verse 4 was supposed to be the last one. For I brought you up out of the land of Egypt and redeemed you out of the house of bondage and set before you Moses and Aaron and Miriam. Okay, I don't see much of a difference there. All right. Hold on. Stupid thing. Okay. All right, so here we go. We're going to go to verse 8 of chapter 6. Masoretic text lacks Yahuwah again, so let's see if that's true. So we're going to go to chapter 6, verse 8. And has it not been told you, O man, what is to, or what does Yahuwah require of you? Okay. But to do right ruling and to love and love mercy and to be ready to walk with Yahuwah your Elohim. So yeah, this is where it's tricky. Right at the end of the verse, they get rid of his name. So walk humbly with your Elohim. No mention of Yahuwah there. Just your Elohim. We're supposed to already know who their Elohim is, I guess. There's no necessity to put his name there. Yeah. Thanks, Mazarites. We don't need you getting rid of his name. That's all right. So that was 6 verse 8. Now we're going to go to verse 9. It says, LXXE, he shall save those that fear his name. So verse 9 of that chapter. Let's see here. So verse 9 of that chapter. Yahuwah's voice shall be proclaimed in the city, and he shall save those that fear his name. The Mizrahic text says, Yahuwah's voice cries into the city, and wisdom shall see your name. What? Hear ye the rod, and who has appointed it? What? Shall save those that fear his name. Hear, O tribe, and who shall order the city? So it's very confusing the way it's worded in the Mizrahic text. That doesn't even make sense. Shall see his name. Okay, that's just weird. All right, so verse 10 we're now on chapter 6. It says, Masoretic text lacks, is there not yet fire? The Septuagint has unrighteous in that verse, and Masoretic text has abominable. So that's the difference there. Let's see here. So we're going to go to verse 10 there. Okay, verse 10. Is there not fire in the house of the wicked, heaping up wicked treasures, and that with the pride of unrighteousness? So the scant measure abominables, what the Masoretic text says. There's no mention of fire, which is very interesting, because the fire could be referring to Yahuwah's displeasure. So that's kind of interesting. That's not mentioned in the Masoretic text. The word fire is not there in verse 10. See here. So verse 11 says, LXE lacks I. Okay, so there's a minor difference there. Verse 11 says, shall the wicked be justified by the balance, or deceitful weights in the bag? Shall I count pure with the wicked? So the difference is the Masoretic text is showing that it's talking about Yahuwah's judgment. Shall he count the wicked as righteous? That's what the context is there. So let me see here. We're going to go to verse 15 here. And the ordinances of my people shall be utterly abolished. That's what the Masoretic text seems to be missing here. So shall the ordinances of my people be utterly abolished. You shall sow, but you shall not reap. You shall press the olive, but shall not anoint yourself with oil. And you shall make wine, but you shall drink no wine. And the ordinances or laws of my people shall be utterly abolished. Now that seems to be very key there, because it seems to show that his people are not obeying his laws and that they're trying to get rid of his laws. You shall sow, but you shall not reap. You shall not tread the olives, but you shall not anoint you with the oil and sweet wine, but shall not drink wine. So no mention of them trying to abolish the ordinances of his people.
Sorry.
Okay. All right. So here we go. We're going to go to the next one here. That's verse 16 here. And then after that, we just got a couple from chapter 7, and then we're done. So verse 16 here, LXXE, nations, Masoretic text, my people. So this is a huge difference because nations is referring to the Gentiles, which would not be his people. So that's a little different. In the Brenz it says, for you have kept the statutes of Zamri and done all the works of the house of Ahab. Ahab was the king of Yehuda, which was the husband of Jezebel. Okay, so you have walked in their ways that I might deliver you to utter destruction. And those that inhabited the city to hissing, you shall bear the reproach of nations. Or if you want to be more correct, in the Greek, the word would be ethnos, ethnicities, multiple Gentile nations is what he's referring to. So, for the statutes of Omri are kept, and all the works of the house of Ahab, and you walk in their counsels, that I should make you a desolation, and their inhabitants thereof a hissing. Therefore you shall bear the reproach of my people. So a lot different. One's talking about his people, the other is talking about the reproach of the Gentiles. So a lot different. Okay, so let's see here. We got chapter 7, verse 2. The Septuagint says righteous for the Septuagint. Masoretic text says tube, which I guess could be the same thing, but, some doing well in his eyes is, being righteous. But I just like how more specific it is in the Septuagint. It says, for the righteous is perished from the earth, and there is none among men that orders his way aright. They all quarrel even to blood. They grievously afflict every one his neighbor. And then it says, the Masoretic just says the tobe, the tube, or no, this is the chassis. So this is a different word. See, this is what really makes me mad. So when translators are translating two different words as good, okay? No, this is supposed to be righteous. Yeah. This is supposed to be righteous. Yali, okay? Pious, which would be reverent, to revere the Father. So righteous. So these translators, man, this is what grinds my gears. When I think there's a difference in the Masoretic, there's not. So now I got to get rid of that one. Because both of them are referring to being righteous, both of those words, the Hebrew and the Greek. Septuagint in verse 3 says, lax, so they wrap it up. That's interesting. Verse 3, so we're going to go to the Septuagint there. In verse 3 it says, they prepare their hands for mischief. The prince asks a reward, and the judge speaks flattering words. It is the desire of their being. The Masoretic says that they may do evil with both hands earnestly. The prince asks, and the judge for a reward, and the great he utters his mischievous desire. So they wrap it up, I guess, finish it, or okay, so this is more or less talking about perversion. Okay, so yeah, again, the King James is messing up here. Abath, to interlace, that is to pervert. Yeah, wrap up is like the second definition. So it's actually, in this context, it would make way more sense that it's talking about to pervert something, okay? They have evil desires, so they're perverting probably Yahuwah's statutes, or they're perverting something. They're perverting the right way, the narrow way. So, all right, so verse 4, Septuagint lacks the most upright, which is interesting. They would lack that. Let me see here. So, verse 4, therefore I will take away their possessions and that's another thing to notice in your older Bibles, the old English word goods is actually referring to possessions. That has nothing to do with being being good or being evil. It's talking about goods as in, things that belong to you, your possessions. Therefore, I will take away their possessions as a devouring moth, and as one who acts by a rigid rule in a day of visitation. Woe, woe, your times of vengeance are come, now shall be their lamentations. So that's the difference too. Lamentations versus the King James has perplexity. What? I mean, that's not the same thing, is it? Because perplexity, you're just perplexed. You're just confused.
Confused, right.
So that's not lamentation. That is different. So the positive for the Masoretic text in this verse is it has the most upright, but it's like weird. It's like the Masoretic text is making it sound like they're doing something good. The best of them as a breer, the most upright or the most righteous, that a thorn hedge the day of your watchman. So it's weird. It's like the Masoretic text is trying to paint the picture that his people are being righteous, and then the Septuagint is showing that they're being wicked. That's why he's devouring their possessions. So it's like very weird, very strange. And at the end, you have lamentations, mourning, beating of the breast versus perplexity. It's like so weird. It's like two different stories, So see here, verse 11 says, utterly abolished your ordinances. And I feel like we read this before, or it might have been another verse in this chapter that talked about the abolished their ordinances. So verse 11 here, it is the day of making of brick, that day shall be your utter destruction, and that day shall utterly abolish your ordinances. Notice how Yahuwah says your ordinances, so it's probably whatever rules they're applying. Probably, who knows, at this point they could be applying rules of the nations, ordinances of the Gentiles. The day that your walls are not be built, that day shall the decree be far removed. So very general in the Masoretic there. So now we're going to go to the last couple cross references we have here. We're all the way down to verse 12 here. Masoretic text lacks Tyre. Tyre is a place in Scripture. Most researchers say the place of Tyre would have been Phoenicia. Most researchers say that. The king of Tyre would have also been known as the king of Phoenicia. So verse 12, and your cities shall be leveled and parted among the Assyrians. So again, Phoenicia, Tyre, Assyria. Okay, so, and then you got, and your strong cities shall be parted from Tyre to the river, and from sea to sea, and from mountain to the mountain. So they forget to mention that it's from Assyria to Tyre that this is happening. So they're being leveled, they're being destroyed. So probably this is talking about, in context, the northern kingdom that was led captive to Assyria. So this would be the Assyrian captivity, just prior or around the same time as the captivity of Babylon, when Daniel was in Babylon. So you had two different captivities around that time. So see here, verse 18. Septuagint says witness. Masoretic text has forever. This is interesting. So the last one we have here is verse 18. Then we're about to be done. Let's see here. Who is a Elohim like you, canceling lawlessnesses and passing over the sins of the remnant of his inheritance? He has not kept back his anger for a witness, for he delights in mercy. So this says he forever. I think, to me, it kind of makes sense, though, that it's not forever, because if we keep sinning, he's not going to keep giving us mercy and forgiving us and not keeping his anger back forever. I mean, his anger is not going to be kept back forever.
No.
So, I mean, I would have to go with the Septuagint on that one. For a witness makes sense. You know, his long suffering for a witness,
Right.
not that it's forever. So, if that makes any sense. So, that was Micah chapter 7, verse 18. And that's pretty much the end of this study. Anyone that has anything to add or wants to ask anything or give comments or any last things to say for the listeners and the viewers out there. So let me see if there's anyone I'm able to unmute. I still got to fix the settings in this so I can unmute people without asking them. It's a shame. So any comments, anything? All right. Okay. Anything? All right. All right. Go ahead, Dennis. I see you unmuted yourself. You want to say something?
Oh, it's pretty good. Sometimes, a lot of times, words are usurped by the enemy and used in the wrong way to give them a wrong connotation.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of stuff. Like he took Elohim and plastered it on a Canaanite deity. That's just one example. He took the prefix of Elohim, all, and then made it El, and then gave it to, you know, the Canaanite god. And yeah, Satan likes to copy a lot. He likes to copy, like he likes to twist truth, take you know, that's how he gets people to eat up lies, is put a little bit of truth in it.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I agree. Yeah, we gotta be careful. And we gotta be careful, you know, just talking and referring to myself. I gotta be careful not to be presumptuous about anything and not to assume what someone taught me about what a word means. And, you know, back in Christianity means that's what it means. Because a lot of the times it's just tradition. It's just what they've been learned from their forefathers and their forefathers and their ancestors. And, you know, tradition tends to just carry down on the line without anyone questioning it. So it's just something to keep in mind when, and we got also, when we're looking at older Bibles, I would really recommend learning the older English language. It really helps because there's a lot of words like we went through today. Goods actually means possessions. There's a lot of words in the British language that we don't understand today. For one, last thing I wanted to end with, when you see in your Bibles, it says meat offering, it's not talking about an animal.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I wanted to enlighten people on too. Meat offerings are grain offerings.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually referring to bread. And so meat in the Old British language referred to any type of food. So sometimes it refers to grain and the grain offerings and the offering of loaves, the heave offerings. And sometimes in Genesis 1 where it says every herb of the field will be meat for you. In general speaking, it's talking about it will be food. So our modern word for food probably originally was meat. And then it kind of, you know, the English language has evolved over time. And that's why when we read older Bibles like the King James, we get confused. And even the modern Bibles keep the old British English in certain sections. And you got to know what it's talking about. That's why I really recommend learning some of that language because the Septuagint has that British language because a British guy translated it from Greek into English. You know, Sir Lancelot Breton, you know, he's a British guy. So a lot of the older Bibles are written in British English. Oh yeah, go ahead, Sister Sadie. I saw your hand up.
Okay, you know, as Brother said, that a lot of stuff has been misused, like words misunderstood, or back in the time, and even you said in British time, or even going back to the oldest of the King James, which they use the V. I know that in I don't know what edition I have. I have one where the pages, if you turn them, they break off. It's so old, kind of like it. You got to have them with tender, loving care. But when I noticed in there, they have the V. So when they say, you know, Lord, what is it? Some word that they use is V. But a V, yeah, it's V added in that old King James that I have. I'll take a picture of it one day. I'll show it to you. But my thought is here is that we got to remember at the beginning of creation, the enemy came to deceive Eve and Adam. Because first he deceived Eve before he did Adam. So he was working, and he's a little creepy crawler, knows when the right person is not there, when to speak, when to put things into your head. That's what the enemy does. He knows when you're off guard, when, like Eve, maybe she wasn't told everything, but he knew to go to the weaker vessel. He knew to go to confuse them. Same thing, he knows to go to confuse people, because we got this modern day English that is, there's a lot of things that are not right. So we got to look at that really deeply, because this is like, we're learning so much, and thank you, Yahuwah. May we have a really beautiful spirit to receive the things that were what our lives and what we have been accustomed to, because yes, of our background, where we came from. But we know that he has had practice from the very beginning to come to rob, steal, and destroy, to confuse the believers, and that's the problem. To me, I look at it right now, when he was showing me that, is that they have all taken a bite of the apple. They are, whatever fruit it was, they've all taken it because they believe in it so wholeheartedly, and they also live by it, and they also want to fight by it, and they also want to make a division by it. And all along, it's been the enemy's trap. So this is really eye-opening, and I know that Father's showing us now so that we can learn what is right, and we can also be able to explain to those who are around us what's right. You know what I mean? So it's a good thing, because what you're doing is filling us up, because only Abba knows what we're going to be doing, how we're going to be helping people unscramble their minds, and Father will open and reveal to them. You know what I mean? So just understand where our enemy's at, and comes to rob, steal, and destroy from the very beginning.
Yep. Yeah, he's everywhere. I've been doing my study about the Exodus, and as you come to the part where the Israelites are just about to go through the parted sea, Pharaoh is still saying, you can go, but not your women. And then next, you can go, but no possessions. No.
Well, that's Yahuwah doing it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
a little
well-
different. That's Yahuwah doing it for a purpose.
Right.
Satan had nothing to do with
Okay,
that. 'Cause,
okay.
Mom, he says, I will make his heart obstinate.
Right.
That's
right,
all
right,
Yahuwah.
right,
That
right.
had nothing to do with Satan.
Okay.
Because he's already serving Satan. What does Satan have to benefit from that?
Mm-hmm.
Pharaoh was a pagan. He's
Right.
already worshiping the devil.
Right.
You know, and like that Christian movie says, he's not going to bother you when you're already serving him. He ain't going to bother you.
That's right.
He ain't going to bother you. When you're worshiping idols and being a pagan and being a heathen, even being just serving your own fleshy desires and being out in the world, he's not going to bother you.
Yeah, I know.
So a lot of times we tend to assume because what Pharaoh did that Satan was doing that. No, Yahuwah,
Okay.
Yahuwah did that. He even says right in Scripture, it says that I will make his heart obstinate. And he even warns Moses before he sends out Moses and Aaron. He's like, he will not listen to you. I'm doing this for a purpose. He will not listen to you. And so that my name, his name, and for any Christians that are watching, his name is important. Go to the book of Exodus. He says, I've done this. The purpose is I've done this to Pharaoh so that my name, because Egypt, Mom, was like the America of that age.
Right.
Okay? He did that so that the whole world would know of his fame, would know Yahuwah.
Right.
He was like, the whole earth would fear my name and esteem my name.
Right.
Because of what I'm doing to Pharaoh. So yeah, Satan was nowhere to be found in that story. Nowhere. I'm just being honest.
No, I know.
What the scripture actually says. Yahuwah did all of that. And Yahuwah also probably, he made his heart obstinate because that's what's known as a vessel of dishonor.
Mm-hmm.
Pharaoh was predestined never to be saved.
Right.
And that's something we need to accept. We can't go against predestination. I know a lot of us, we don't like Calvinism, so some of us, we tend to not want to accept predestination. Predestination is real. There's vessels of dishonor that can never be saved. Physically could never be saved. Judas was one of them.
Yeah.
Yahushua said in John 17, not one of them would be lost that you've given to me, except the son of perdition, that the scripture might be fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
Now, only two people in scripture are ever called the son of perdition. Judas and the Antichrist. Only two people. So even the Antichrist is predestined for the lake of fire. So this idea of predestination, Paul talks about in Romans, I forget which part in Romans, it might be 7 or somewhere, where he talks about, who are you, O man, to quarrel with your creator and say, why have you made me this way? Predestination is a real thing. That's where election comes in. Yahuwah predestined from the creation of the earth who he would call. We didn't choose him, he chose us. And so that's something sometimes that's brushed under the rug because of the anti-Calvinist movement in Christianity. And we've been taught, in the Christian churches, predestination is evil. Yeah. No. Predestination, all it is Yahuwah's sovereignty. Yahuwah is sovereign to choose who he wants to be saved. And it is, we basically have been taught through Christianity inclusive Elohim, when really Yahuwah is a exclusive Elohim. He is very exclusive. He is very picky who he wants to save. And so that it's just a different paradigm. So it's a different paradigm because, the happy, the nice, the bubbly type of message that you get in most churches is, he wants everyone to be saved. But if you look at all scripture as a whole, he is very picky who he wants to be his children. And he's only going to pick those that have their heart right.
Yep.
And really, he only picks those that actually, our part is when he calls us, if we answer the call. So that's where free will and predestination work hand in hand. I know it doesn't make sense because they're kind of like opposites, but throughout the scripture, they work hand in hand. Because of his sovereignty, he chose someone, but the other person had to accept the calling. So, he's not going to force you to accept the calling. I mean, he could. He has the ability to force you, but usually he's not going to force you. Usually he's going to call you, and it's up to you to accept the calling to become one of his children. So that's all I wanted to point out there, that there is predestination, because I know it's a touchy topic. And, I wanted to put it out there, what scripture actually says about it, and about who really was doing that to Pharaoh. I think it's important to know that Yahuwah was doing all that. It's pretty important to know. I get what my mom was saying, though.
I was just trying to say, really, that Satan does use a little truth, and the rest too. He's a slitherer.
Yeah.
He'll get in there anywhere he can, and especially when our guard is down.
Yeah.
When we may be in pain physically, or we may be in pain emotionally. That's when he comes in there, and that's the point I was really.
No, I know you were trying to. Just wanted to clarify that.
Sure.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Please stay tuned. We'll be doing a study sometime in the near future. So thank you for joining us. If you like these type of studies and you really are interested in seeing more of these, please click the notification bell on the YouTube channel. Please like, share, and subscribe. And if you feel like you would want to reach out to any of us, just comment on the comments section of these videos. My email is douglasboninsegna@gmail.com. It's my first and last name. That's on my YouTube channel at gmail.com. So if you feel free to reach out to us and you want to fellowship with us, just reach out to me or any one of my brothers and sisters that have social media. So thank you for joining us today. Have a great day. Shalom.
Shalom. Other stuff.